Hi, this is Brad East of Taming the Polar Bears. I'm recording this specifically for my Taming the Polar Bears YouTube channel. Now I've kind of gotten back into my role that I've created and became in Taming the Polar Bears. Posted something recently, got some immediate feedback. And one of the first things that came up was being bipolar. This from somebody who knew somebody close to them with bipolar and talked about some of the challenges involved with that. So today I'm going to focus on, and I don't often do this, I talk about a lot of things in the blog besides bipolar. There's some dedicated posts to that, and the name of the blog, Taming the Polar Bears, refers to managing bipolar opposites. Highs and lows, mania and depression. And that is precisely what I'm going to talk about today. Now there are, like any quote-unquote mental illness is defined under the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, the sort of somewhat infamous DMS-4 or DSM-4, or DSM-5 as we have now. I'm going to talk about that another time. I started off believing it was very evil. I think that's not quite correct. In any case, like any diagnostic label in the manual, bipolar will be defined by a number of symptoms. Now, I'm not going to get into defining and diagnosing bipolar. That's a real black hole, La Brea tar pit. But for those of you who are either living with a diagnosis that came through a psychiatric process, or believe you are living as a bipolar person, I'm just going to talk today. I'm going to sort of disregard a lot of quote-unquote symptoms. And again, I'm going to have to address that separately. The defining features, what should be the absolute defining features of bipolar, never mind anything else, is mania and depression. Now, bipolar is described and known as and classified as quote-unquote a mood disorder. This is highly misleading, as many of you should know or will know or do know. True bipolar is not about moods. Everybody is moody. Everybody has good days and bad days, and they feel up and happy and down. That is human. True bipolar is not a freaking mood disorder. We all have mood disorders, if that's the definition. So today I'm going to talk specifically about mania and depression, and why those things are different for many of us, and why they should define bipolar and your experience of it. And the main, this is kind of an introduction, and what I sort of promised in a private message request. This is kind of an introduction on how to better understand and master manic highs and depressive lows. Okay, so mania. Now, I've been saying for many, many years, mania at its core is energy, and there's a good amount of research now to support that. I'm going to try get into the habit of putting some relevant links into the comment section below this video. But mania at its core is energy, a lot of it. Now, there's some really interesting biology on where that energy comes from and why. and why certain people are more prone to it. And we obviously can't get into that today. But we're just going to think, and those of you who have experienced it will know what I'm talking about. Just enormous amounts of energy. You will function at levels that are above normal human capabilities. That's not an exaggeration. Now that could mean a number of different things. A lot of what we see in bipolar people in this energy is, quite frankly, a lot of quote-unquote inappropriate behavior, over-sexuality, a lot of energy directed into unchanneled, ununderstood avenues, could lead to violence, not the kind of violence that's in the papers all the time now in mass shootings and stuff like that. Just normal human, getting into fistfights at bars and things like that. Just this energy that can't be contained, and for a variety of reasons may lead to confrontations, we shall say, verbal and physical. Many of you will know what I'm talking about. Those who live with bipolar people or around bipolar people will know what I'm talking about. This is not a judgmental thing. None of what I ever talk about in the blog is judgmental. It's just kind of part of the facts of what goes on. Now, in my view, I've always had kind of a view that there are sort of two types of bipolar mania. Now, there are some people who talk about this. It's generally disregarded in the literature, particularly psychiatric literature. But there's kind of a creative mania, and then that other type that I was just talking about. And we're going to get to both, so just hang with me here. Now, I want to talk about creative mania just for a moment. You will see this in some famous people, and I'm not going to get into them all. Two of them, a composer from the 18th century, Schumann, I believe his last name is. Again, I'll try to post a link if I can. When he was manic, he was incredibly productive. When he was not manic, when he kind of slid back into his normal self and then slid further into depressive states, he was extremely not productive. Jimi Hendrix was said to have been bipolar, and a lot of his creative work could have come from manic highs. So it's, and then this has been mostly my personal experience. A lot of times when I'm manic, I'm just really mentally productive, and this is part of what we're going to talk about: taming and understanding and taming manic highs, manic energy. So when in a period of mania, and let's assume you're more towards the creative side, your brain is going to be operating at an extremely high level. Again, just some really fascinating neurobiology involved with this. I've talked in a number of posts about how the body and brain cells create energy through mitochondria. In a manic phase, let's just say that everything in your brain is operating in a physical and neurobiological sense on some of the upper edges of human capability. And this is all very relative. Just because you're going through a manic phase doesn't mean you're Einstein or Newton or somebody like that. But it's just relative to you. And this is really important, a really key point, and part of this whole taming your polar bear is understanding and mastering the art of your highs and lows. Is whatever you experience is relative to you. Now, in a manic state, it might certainly appear that you're better than anybody else at something, and that's possibly true. But that is a really dangerous way to get into that leads to all kinds of arrogance and boasting and all kinds of other shit that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. It's a bad habit. So, Art of Mastering, Lesson 1, whatever you experience is relative to you. And you kind of have to get out of comparing yourselves to others, because it's just going to lead down a road you don't want to go. So mania, we're just going to think of it. No, it's mania is viewed very dimly by psychiatry. They give you all kinds of drugs to demolish it, much to our, and a lot of us aren't happy about that. Now, in some cases, it absolutely is necessary. There is just runaway mania that's not really leading to anything productive and is going to lead to dangerous behavior or behavior that's really difficult for your family or close ones to handle. There are times when some kind of pharmacological intervention is necessary. We may not like it. The danger, the mistake people make is that it's necessary for life. That's the wrong part of it. But at times it is necessary. But let's assume, that you have kind of got through that or don't suffer that part, but have a lot of manic energy and can be very productive, very mentally productive. And your brain just operates at a different level, grasps things really quickly, can get through an enormous amount of study material very quickly. A lot of us will have experienced this. And the thing is, with mania, it never lasts. This whole biochemical, neurobiological process that creates it is finite. It's not going to last forever. You are going to come down, which leads us to the depressive state. So now the depressive state is the complete opposite of the manic state. And again, we're going to try stay separate from the quote-unquote mood aspects of these. Yes, in manic states there could be elation, extreme joy, pleasure, these kinds of things. Those are possible, not necessary. They may also not be the defining feature of your mania. They may be present, but they aren't the mania. Ditto with depression. Yes, we might be feeling sad. Yes, we might be feeling down. Yes, we might be feeling negative. But that is not the defining feature of bipolar depression. Again, those things are normal. Those are human. So what makes bipolar depression different? We look at the opposite of mania, energy. The defining feature of bipolar depression, and indeed some types of unipolar depression, is lack of energy, where your brain was firing like the fireworks on the 4th of July or New Year's Eve. Now there's barely a spark. Where you had endless energy, hardly needed sleep. In depression phase, you can hardly get out of bed. I've been through phases where literally tying my shoes was a challenge. Whereas, during the manic phase, you feel like you can do anything. It can be, it's almost impossible to describe the feelings going from the high to the low. It can sometimes be so fast as to feel stomach churning. I've kind of spoken a little bit in the blog about rapid cycling, where you're just up, down, like a yo-yo, and it is literally stomach churning, and you will literally almost do anything to make it stop. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But here you are, you're in a depressive low. Let's assume it's not rapid cycling, but a prolonged period. And it's going to be very, very different from the manic high. That alone is kind of part of the depressing part. There's going to be a lot of confusion, like, what the hell is going on? Last week I could do all this week I can hardly get out of bed. And, you know, the depressive phase really is the price you pay for that energy expenditure in the manic phase. This is why it's going to become very important to manage these. Now, when you're younger, this stuff is more ample in supply, shall we say. As you get older, these things literally burn out on a mass scale throughout your body, in every cell of your body, literally. So this, this is why we have to understand these things in different terms and start looking at mastering the art of your highs and lows, master the art of managing your highs and lows. So energy is one of the defining features. The other thing I want to introduce, something I started kind of understanding many, many years ago as I looked at my highs and lows in retrospect. We see they're really different realities. Now, I talk a lot in my blog about how our brains create our realities and conscious experience. Our realities and conscious experience are related. So mania is going to present one type of reality, hyper positive, hyper optimistic, everything is possible, everything is wonderful. Depressive phase will present quite a different reality. Pessimistic, negative, oh my God, nothing is possible. These are just different realities. What you need to understand, and this is the key takeaway as I'm bumping up against my time limit already, is neither of these realities are the reality. And these are one of the most difficult things we have to deal with as a bipolar person, these radically different realities and conscious experiences. And it's really important to understand that neither of us is really our core self. We are not that person at that manic high. It's part of us for sure, and we can mine nuggets there and make use of it. But neither is the depressive low. That is not us. It doesn't have to be. It often becomes, and that is unnecessary. You don't have to be that depressive low. There's a kind of a middle core that we need to start working on, and we can use aspects of the highs. Both experiences you can learn from. There's going to be lots you can learn when in a manic high, when you're seeing things more positively, when things are working really sharply and well and quickly. But when you get into a depressive stage, you see the world differently, and there are things of value there. What you should do, what I kind of fluked on to being able to do, and what people need to learn to do, is use the depressive phase as kind of a counter check to the manic phase. Okay, you had all these great ideas when you were manic. When you're depressed, you use this phase, everything's slowed down, you don't have the energy, but if you apply it right and look through a lot of what you went through in your manic phase, all these great ideas and all those things, and just simply look at them from a different point of view. Is that really true? Is that really doable? And that's where we're going to have to wrap it up. A brief introduction, and I hope that brings you back for more. And we will continue along these lines, along the lines of mastering the highs and lows of bipolar. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again.